Welcome to Remote Reality. This is Lauren, and today I'm joined by my friend and special co-host today. This is Nori. Hey, Nori.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great. Nori and I, we have been friends for about 6 years. We bonded over our love for podcasts, reality TV, and gaming, especially the gaming part,
Mhm.
or maybe especially the podcasting part. You want to tell us
They go
a little
hand
bit
in hand.
more about our friendship?
Oh, yeah. So, around 2019, we were both big Nintendo Switch fans. We got Animal Crossing right around the time of the pandemic.
Like right at the beginning. I think it was March
Mhm.
of 2020. Oh, and we were in a podcast group together.
Mhm. And we each kind of separately made our own, like, Animal Crossing, Nintendo gaming groups. I was one for a different podcast, and you had one for a separate podcast. I think they were, like, just a couple days apart too.
It
We
was like the
eventually did
first day
merge.
we got this same idea. Great minds
Mhm.
think alike,
Yeah. We eventually did merge them together to create one big, podcasting gaming group.
which is reality podcast. And hold on, let me look up the name of it. It's reality TV podcast and video games. We have 311 members, which is more than the channel surfers have. So if any of the channel surfers listening are gamers, come join our group. We need to get it back up. During the
Mhm.
pandemic, we were always playing Among Us or Animal Crossing. And you know what? I think there's
Those are
something
some
that
of the
might
best times.
start injecting some new life back into this group.
Mhm.
I've got to switch too.
Oh, nice. Fancy.
Yes. And honestly, you can play all the same games as the Switch, but
Mhm.
maybe if anybody has some Switch 2 recommendations, yeah, we should definitely. And I've been doing a lot of mobile gaming, so maybe one day we'll live stream some gaming stuff. We used to play with live
Absolutely.
streamers, like with Fall
Mhm.
Guys. You remember when you beat the one
Mhm.
live streamer on Twitch?
I did, yeah. I'm a
But
big Fortnite player. I gotta get you into Fortnite too, because that
I played
is
with you
kind of
once and we won, but I was really just
Mhm.
hiding the whole time. Wasn't doing much on the battlefront. All
Oh, it's
right.
so fun.
Well, we are going to get into a perfect neighbor. Right now, I am being the perfect neighbor because I'm actually using my next door neighbor's internet and she doesn't know. Hey, April. I don't know. Mine's been down and I just tried connecting to yours and it's giving us much better quality. So, The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix. If you have a hard time watching this or you're worried about watching it, I do recommend just listening to it without the visuals. To me, that made it a little bit easier the first time to get through it because it's hard to see these kids.
Mhm.
But as an attorney, I've seen tough things before, and I've actually done a little bit of extra research here. I have watched closing arguments in this case. I have watched the full interview of the night of June 3rd, the night of the shooting, with Susan. And I've also watched the sentencing phase, prosecution, defendant's arguments, as well as Susan's statement during sentencing. So I will give some legal commentary on this, but we'll wait until after we finish the Netflix documentary and give our commentary. So I'm going to add some extra, inject a little bit of legal stuff, give you some evidence that we maybe didn't see during this documentary. Because this documentary, it's all from the view of police cameras. Super interesting.
It's very immersive.
Yes, this woman, Susan, who is the defendant in this case, she called the police so many times that the cameras just tell a story. Let's get into it. Let's watch.
All right, let's go.
Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With a host, side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
So, A Perfect Neighbor starts out. It's nighttime. We're getting police dash cam footage of them in a parking lot. Police code comes in, 911 call. Somebody got shot. You see the police vehicle flying through the streets. They pull up into this little neighborhood. There's people on the street.
And the neighborhood's like a street long. You see a bunch of houses on one side, duplexes on the other. It's dusk. And I was surprised how fast they got to the scene. They were very close by.
Very much so, yeah. So we see the police pull up to this it's an apartment, but not what you would typically think of an apartment building. They're kind of 3 homes
Duplex,
next to each other. Yeah, kind of duplex. They go
triplex. They go 3
triplex.
ways.
You see them rush up to the porch of this home, and guns are drawn. Please come up and say, come out here, put your hands up. And then it cuts to a perfect neighbor.
Perfect neighbor. And we find out soon where that title comes from, because this intro really does not seem like we're about to meet the perfect neighbor. Nothing about this says perfect neighbor.
So then
We hear
cuts to, go ahead.
Well, we hear the police talking about a shooting having taken place. She's laying over here. So we're walking in to the scene of a shooting. And then when we start off, we go to a new scene. So we're told that this happened. The first scene was June 3rd of, I believe it was 2023. When we come back from the intro scene, it's February 25th, 2022. And we've got a 097 in progress. I had to look that up. Like, I know 187 just from songs and stuff, but a 097 means they're pulling up to the scene. Basically, they're saying 097 in progress. We're just now getting here. We're back in this same neighborhood, and we're back on that same porch where we left off with the shooting. The woman who comes out of the house, the triplex, she said the lady across the street hit me with a sign, says something about pooping dogs. Did you catch what she was rambling about?
Yeah, she's just said that the kids are playing in the empty lot and told them that she was going to call the police on them. She said the dogs are pooping everywhere. Says the parent hit her with a private property, no trespassing sign. And she also mentions that she's planning on moving. She's like, after
she was
this,
thinking about buying that property, but now after all this, she is not going to buy the property. Yeah, and she said that the lady across the street just like started coming at her, went and pulled this sign out of the ground and threw it at her. And then this woman, the police have come up, it's the middle of the day, come up to answer her call. She shows them the sign. She like picks up this sign out of a potted plant. The thing is flopping down when she picks it up. It's made out of not even like sturdy Amazon cardboard that you would get your package in. This is like poster board.
It looks like something that you can get from the like stationary part of the grocery store. Or
you go to Lowe's looking for a screw or a nail or someone to hammer it in. And the sign, yeah, it's like sitting there. It's got 2 little metal poles at the end, but this is like aluminum. This is not some sturdy metal. And this woman does not look injured at all. She is walking right to her door. She's not complaining of like any cuts or bruises or anything like that.
And so the police, I believe the next scene, they go and they talk to AJ across the street. AJ, her name is Achika. We'll probably just refer to her as AJ, just AJ. So
that's how
we're not mispronouncing anything.
Or neighbors refer to her, Achika or AJ.
Yeah, she says that Susan said you Black people don't listen or something when talking to the police. We meet a couple of the other neighbors
Susan
too.
is the neighbor across the street. She identifies herself as Susan Lorincz.
I think that's right.
It has like a CZ at the end. So it sounds like a Polish name. My mom, her main name ends in CZ. But anyway. Yeah, she says that Susan was yelling at AJ's kids who were playing in the lot across the street. And she said that's not even her lot. So she went and picked up the no trespassing sign. And she says, yeah, I threw it at her. I wasn't trying to hit her. I don't think I hit her. But she admits that she tossed this sign at her.
Yeah.
And then we start hearing from a couple of the other neighbors. Now, these neighbors, they're not talking. One of them says she didn't even see what happened. It was her children, which the police can't really use that because that would be hearsay. That's why you hear the police throughout this video continue to ask witnesses, did you see that? Or did you hear that? Or did somebody tell you that? Because, for example, if that neighbor's kid came inside and told her, I just saw this happen, that would be objectionable in court. That is a statement made by someone else for the truth of the matter asserted. Her child, even though children are harder to ask questions to, and we see some of this in this video, you got to make sure that they know they're telling the truth. And questioning a child on the stand is difficult. You want to show the jury that you're like not attacking the child. You don't want to attack the child when you're asking questions either. And that can be difficult for an attorney if they're having to show that the child is not credible, that they're lying. So anyway, even though it would be easier to get the information from the parent, you have to get it from the direct witness. So you're going to see that a few times, but she's like, no, I didn't see anything. And then the other neighbor, they go up to her.
They talk to a couple of the other neighbors, and the neighbors say there's ongoing problems with Susan. Says AJ didn't throw the sign at her. She said, this is what I love too. She said she set it down and it was right near Susan's feet. So that's a real one. That is a good neighbor to have.
Now, I don't know if that neighbor saw it because her kids start saying, no, she threw it. And she's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. So when the police finally go to Susan, they're like, look, we're going to write this up as a trespassing or whatever, but we're not going to press charges. And she's like, you're not going to arrest them? No, we don't have any credible witnesses. It's basically what you said versus what she said.
And Susan's like, oh, of course. Like kind of rolls her eyes too.
Of course, nobody took my side. Yeah, of course, Susan. Of course, nobody did. Yeah, I really like the neighbor that was like, nope, she just set it down throughout this documentary. That's me. I'm like, that would be me. I would be that neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Something I noticed too, before they go talk to Susan again, there is a male officer and a female officer who is also Black, kind of talking to AJ.
Yeah.
She says, it's like, this is kind of why I got a house. And even AJ says she wants to move next year because of all the problems. The Black officer says, she's kind of talks to her partner and says, maybe you should go talk to her because I'm Black. I don't think she'll like me too much. So you can see the police are kind of picking up like on these cues that Susan is throwing down and like kind of where a lot of these problems started.
That she's called her racial slurs before, and the female officer understands what AJ is saying, whereas the guy officer, at this point, he almost seems to want to just get out of there. He's like, this is ridiculous. This lady across the street's wasting our time. He goes and tells AJ, she had the no trespassing sign, so just don't go over there. And AJ says, well, I didn't know that was her property, but I guess if it's her property. And he's like, well, it's not, but it's her landlord's. And we get into this more about exactly whose property this empty lot is. But he's saying because it's the landlord's and she's renting, she would have the right to tell you not to be there. Just like if she came in your front yard, you would have the right to tell her not to be there, which that's true. When you lease property, you are leasing the right to possession. You are leasing the right to quiet enjoyment. Property rights are like a bundle of sticks. So if you own property, you have a lot of different rights. Bundle of sticks. Oh my God, this is so Law School 101. And let's say that you're renting it out for somebody each month to live in. Well, you're giving them the right to occupy that home, the right to quiet possession and enjoyment of that home. You're not giving them the right to sell it. You're not giving the right of them to pass it down. You're giving them a limited right to stay there for a certain amount of time, but you're giving away the other rights. So she's renting the right to occupy that premises. She would have the right to tell them not to trespass, but that's only for what she's renting. That does not apply to every lot that the landlord owns. It does not apply to every lot in the neighborhood, whoever else owns it. It only applies to what she's paying for, which is that portion of the duplex.
Yeah. This is kind of jumping ahead. There's another call where Susan talks about, I know real state law and I have the right to peaceful and quiet enjoyment of my residence.
Yes.
I highlighted quiet because I don't know if that's something that could actually be written into laws. Neighbors go through homing construction. Like you can't guarantee a place is going to be quiet or like neighborhood's going to be quiet.
That's different. So yeah, that's a great observation. And that is a legal term. So quiet enjoyment, what that means is that the tenant has the right to live in the property they're renting without a significant interference from the landlord or from others. So for example, that means that they can live there without the landlord like coming into their house. And that's why you're going to have even like limits on when the landlord can inspect the property. Like this is their home up to a certain amount. Like the landlord can't just come in every week and like search every room unless it's something that's written in the contract where you're agreeing to that. But yeah, that's what quiet enjoyment is. Like the landlord's not going to go and store their stuff up in your attic. So it doesn't mean quiet as in noise, which those things are typically regulated by like a county ordinance, which can be a semi-criminal, like a traffic ticket, like a municipal
Like
matter,
a civil.
at least here.
The police even say it's later on, it's a civil matter that we're not
Exactly.
going to deal with.
The police have nothing to do with civil matters. Quiet enjoyment is something that you sue and say, okay, my landlord under the Landlord Tenant Act is not giving me quiet enjoyment. They're renting this property to me, but they're having their Thanksgiving dinner over here on Thanksgiving Day. It's not that the neighborhood kids have to be quiet. That might be a noise complaint or like a nuisance ordinance, but it's not a criminal matter. That was a great question.
So there's that narration going on. It seems like Ashika is a really good mom, always with her kids. She's a manager at McDonald's and would adjust her schedule to make sure her kids got to football, soccer practice, dance, and
She was
gymnastics.
like paying for private school. So she's working her butt off to make sure her kids like have everything she can give them. She gives them everything.
Yeah.
Great mom. And she has 3 boys and 1 girl. And it's mainly the 2 older boys and the little girl who are playing outside, Isaac, Isaiah, and Africa. And they call Isaiah Izzy. Next dash cam video is December 22nd, just a few days before Christmas. And these joyful kids are just bringing down Susan's season. What are your observations from this police call?
So this call takes place at night. Starts out with the interview with Susan talking about the kids running around like idiots, and she lost
Screaming their
nerve.
heads off.
Yep. She lost her nerve and couldn't take it anymore. She called the kids the R word. That's not something that I want to repeat.
The B word, the P word, which I don't even know what the P word is, but it's probably better that I don't know.
The mother comes out yelling at her, "Don't call my kids names."
Well,
Susan
this
says
part I
that.
found interesting is that she said I had my truck parked over here because I wanted to basically like reduce the noise, which makes no sense. If your cement walls aren't reducing the noise from the kids playing in the lot beside your house, Susan, I don't think your truck park there is going to do anything. And then she gets out to move the truck, and that's when she tells the kids, come on, guys, stop. And she tells the police they know they're not supposed to be over there. And then
one of the kids
she tells them, don't tell me to shut up. Yeah, I'm Dr. Enzo.
Which you did some research. There's no evidence anywhere of her being a doctor.
I Googled. Nobody has been able to dig up where she's a doctor. Like, what kind of doctor works from home? Maybe a PhD, maybe a doctor on demand. What people have said is that she was an EMT that worked in the insurance industry. So, yeah, representing yourself as a doctor, especially if she's trying to practice medicine, also illegal. No regard for the truth.
Yeah.
But anyway.
She claims one of the mothers came out yelling at her, saying, don't call my kids names. I'll put you in a retirement home. You see a lot of microaggressions too, where she uses language like those people, like very demoralizing kind of othering of these neighbors.
Neighbor, I didn't see anything. So there's 2 neighbors. There's the one that said, I didn't see anything. She set this sign down. Actually, no, there's I didn't see anything and she set the sign down. So neighbor, she set the sign down. We should give them names. I don't know. She explains to the police that this woman is just shitty to the kids. And she like records them on video, and she's just always being a jerk. And it seems like her kids were also out with AJ's kids that day because they're interviewing 6 kids. The kids are so nice. And the police officers say, look, she's trying to make you look bad. I want you to look good. So go out there, hoot and holler, play all you want. She can't tell you not to be over there. It's not her property. But if she comes out, just go tell a parent. Don't agitate her. She's just going to call us out here and try to make you look bad. They know what they're dealing with. They know this caller's personality and how she'll try to twist things.
They're walking back to the car and calling her a psycho and saying that they should give the kids all poppets around New Year's Eve.
Right. Next week, just get the poppets out. I thought they were saying they should go out there with poppets. Gotta call the police on the police, Susan. Also, the kids say that to the police that she records them on a camera on her house. They're basically like, check the cameras.
Something I found interesting too, kind of going back to what you said about the truck park, because I have a theory about this, is that she parked her truck kind of in front of her patio and she was setting off the car alarm like every 6 minutes, like drowning out the noise with more noise possibly.
Or giving her an excuse to go outside and yell at the kids, trying to say that they're setting off the alarm. Because if she doesn't like noise, you're right. Why would she set off the car alarm? That,
especially if you're trying to work from home, and a lot of work from home deal with calls.
Well, also, are you working from home that late at night? Maybe, but maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I notice is while she says the kids are being rude to her, the mom is yelling at her, at no point does she say any physical altercations happened.
Just that they're a nuisance.
And while nobody is making any allegations of physical threats, after the two police leave and the last police officer is kind of wrapping things up with Susan, letting her know that they're not going to press charges, all of a sudden the story goes from, she said she was putting me in a retirement home and these kids are being noisy and telling me I'm a Karen, to, well, she said she was going to drag my ass and beat me. That wasn't mentioned at first. That wasn't mentioned at all. It was like more complaints about the kids being annoying, not until the police are about to leave without an arrest.
Yeah, she kind of conveniently did not bring that up until they were about to leave.
Conveniently, as Susan would say. And the police officer tells her, look, that's not your property. You have no legal right to tell them whether or not to be there. That's why we can't do anything. And we've told the children's mothers, if you and them have any issues, then they need to come over here and talk to you. They need to tell their parents. So we told the kids, if, not to talk back to you, to go let their parents know what the problem is. So at this point, the police are saying, this is their instructions. If you get an altercation with them, they're to tell their parents. The kids also said that Susan was coming at them aggressively and yelling at them. On the CV radio, police officers are saying that this is nonstop, called dispatch. Here, neighbors talking about how she revved her engine and went flying out of the neighborhood. And then we go to the night of March 14th, 2023. The police are talking to a guy that has, I guess, like a tow truck.
It's some kind of enclosed area. I'm not quite sure the location.
Who is the person they're talking to, though? It looks like a tow truck driver.
Yeah. But he was complaining about a woman ramming his gate
over and over. And he said someone was locked in. He's gotten calls before that someone was locked in, but
there's apparently a number that somebody can call, to let him out.
And they pull her license plate and say, okay, she lives right down the street. Turns out it's Susan.
Yep. What's interesting is the cop goes up to the door, knocks, takes a very long time for Susan to answer. We kind of get glimpses of the real Susan throughout this, which I found interesting because I noticed she yelled out in a kind of shrill voice, she's 1 minute, be right there. And I feel like that's kind of closer to the real Susan that her neighbors are seeing, and not the person that she kind of puts on when the police are talking to her. But go ahead.
This has a lot of similarities to the night of the shooting. However, it's not related to the shooting. I don't know that this is dash cam video that was shown in court. If they were trying to use it to prove that she committed the crime, that this is her character. So if she acts this way during this time, she obviously acted this way the night of the crime. That would not be permissible. That would be impermissible character evidence. But if they're using it to show how she reacted when somebody was banging on her door and trying to determine whether or not what her fear would have been. Like if this is March of 2023, the end of March, and somebody's banging on her door unexpectedly, what is her fear then versus the night of the shooting?
I think it
What-
also shows when we see the police later on talking to her, we kind of see her story changed a good at least 3 or 4 times.
We do. But it would be permissible for the second reason. But yeah, at first, like you said, she screams 1 minute at them and then she cracks the door. She's not really wanting to say anything. And then do you notice she has her phone in her hand? Like before she opens the door, she's got her phone and she's got it gripped to her chest with the camera side pointing out. I wonder if she was recording the police interaction.
Yeah, I wonder if she didn't know if the police were going to be at her house that night or not.
When she cracked the door, she knew. So, and the police ask her to step outside and she asks, well, first they ask, was your car here all day? Where were you?
She says
You were
yes.
here all day. Did you let anybody use your car? No. And they're like, so it was here the whole time. And then she tells the police that she got the tire changed. At this point, they ask her to step outside. And the police officer says, I have to read you something, and starts reading her Miranda rights. So
she
the
goes
Miranda-
inside to grab like a jacket or something too. So she's not even like complying.
That's what I'm getting to. So there's a legal part here that I think is significant that I'm noticing from an attorney standpoint. So when the police start reading your Miranda rights, that means that they are starting the arrest process, that you are not free to leave. They don't have to read you your Miranda rights if they're investigating. But once they caught her starting to lie, they read the rights. And you notice when she walks back in to get the sweater, the officer is going, no, 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 and starts to follow her in. Because at that point, I don't think he was necessarily going to let her off the hook and be free to leave.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Cop kind of following at her in to read the Miranda rights to her and just making sure that every little bit of that she heard and she responded to.
But she's not being cooperative. She goes in to get something. I get it if you're cold, you need to get something, but she's not listening to the police when the officer's telling her no, no, no. She's not asking to go get it first. And then when they read the right, she says, no, I don't want to talk to you. And that's when the police says, all right, we'll go do a lineup with the guy who saw it. I'll come back and get it. And then she decides she wants to talk. But I think the police officer was very smart here to say, no, I'm not going to talk to you, because anything that comes in after those rights are read and she has requested an attorney, there could be an argument that will be not admissible. However, it just kind of depends on the jurisdiction, but she did voluntarily start giving information. It wasn't police interrogation at that point. It clearly wasn't, because he said, I'm not going to ask you questions. And she just started volunteering that she was raped at a young age and beaten. And she thought because she was locked in the gate that this guy was going to hurt her. So similar to the night in question, you have somebody beating at her door. How does she react? Well, she does kind of crack the door open, but she also yells at the police and she's not cooperative. And she says she doesn't want to talk. Night of the shooting, she says she don't want to talk. Somebody's banging at her door. Did she call the police that night? This night, she doesn't even know who's banging at her door. And her first reaction isn't to call the police. She answers the door. So how afraid is she? This is also somebody she doesn't know or expect to be banging at her door. And then she doesn't immediately say she was in fear for her life. She says she doesn't want to talk to the police, which you can't take as her being guilty. But it's not until the police are talking about arresting her, when she realizes she might be in trouble, that she starts making up a story about being in fear for her safety, for her bodily safety. She starts making a self-defense claim.
What irritated me too is the cop says, I'm going to go back and talk to the, gate owner because you rammed his gate and you damaged his property. And she goes, well, my truck was damaged too. Whose fault is that, Susan? So I think it just kind of...
We see an April 25th call where Susan is using racial slurs against the children. The children tell the police officers she is telling us for like trying to steal her car. The officer's like, how old are you?
The kid's
11.
so
Do you
adorable.
even know how to
We're
drive?
11.
No.
They said there were, the kids were like, she says that we're acting like kids. We are kids. It's so adorable. These kids are so cute. Like,
They are so cute. And one of the dads across the street, he says the neighbors look out for each other. He doesn't personally know Izzy, but ask Africa who, what her brother's name is. Because Susan is telling the police officers that he's trying to pick up that big standard size poodle or labradoodle or whatever, this big dog the size of him, and put it in her truck. And she shows the police a picture and it's just Izzy. Like there's no dog anywhere in the picture.
I'm not sure what make of the truck is. It kind of looks like a Ford F-150, but I mean, it'd be quite a task for like a 10, 11-year-old to lift a 60, 80-pound dog into the back of a pickup truck that size.
It just seems like a lie. When the police roll up, they ask Africa if they're chasing a dog, and Africa's like, what dog? What color? She has no idea what they're talking about. And the police understand what's going on. They tell the dad across the street, we know. We've been here before. He's like, yeah, she calls about twice a week. And then you see the officer going up to kind of give the rundown to Susan. And Susan starts bringing up that the mom threw the sign at her like 8-9 months ago because, okay, the police obviously aren't arresting the kids for trying to put a dog in my truck
that she wants. So she's trying to throw whatever sticks or might stick.
Exactly. And it's not sticking. Now, one thing I noticed, April 2023, Susan, it's a little late to have your Santa being pulled by a poodle decoration on your porch. What the heck? What the heck? What? This dog hater of poodles has a poodle pulling Santa year round on her porch, apparently.
I saw that too.
Maybe
and
she
then
just
she's
doesn't
a
like
cat
their
person.
poodle because Cash is black, racist.
Right? The dog's black, the kids are black. I mean, to get more into the slurs too, I'm not going to repeat most of them because I don't use that language, but called the kids slaves, saying like, this area over here isn't the Underground Railroad, calling them the N-word and the F-word, just absolutely terrible things.
I can't with her.
The next scene,
Africa
she kind
tells
of goes,
the police, she's bossy. You should take her to jail. And they're like, we can't take her to jail for being bossy.
Then there's a scene of Susan going into the police station and telling
a month later,
telling the police that she wants her neighbors locked up and that she's called. And some of the calls aren't even getting responded to because the cops already kind of know the whole situation.
But yeah, apparently the night before she had called in because somebody threw a burnt sign in her yard. Allegedly AJ's kids. And she says, okay, I get the message they're trying to send, but she called the police and she said the mother must have intervened because the police never showed up. So yeah, police didn't show up. So she drives up there the next day to make sure that they've got it. And the officer says, again, I don't have any proof of this. If you had a camera or something. So this is May 22nd. He's saying, I can't prove anything unless you have proof of it, like a camera. So I'm going to write this up as an arson complaint, but we can't make any arrests.
What are they supposed to do? This lady's calling all the time. She's got several different stories every time that they turn up. When one thing doesn't work, she goes to another thing, and she brings up things from 8 months ago.
The neighbors are on video saying, at least on audio, saying that Susan has also started waving guns around at the children. You hear a bunch of different kids talking about seeing guns, her brandishing guns. One kid said he is really quiet when he plays basketball because it's nothing to get shot over. And they report seeing these guns as recently as 2 days before the shooting incident. So she started to pull guns out on them. Susan!
I mean, that's a crime in itself, too. Isn't that brandishing?
I guess it just depends on, like, here we have open carry, but I guess it just depends on the laws.
Just Florida.
But if she's pointing it at them, that could be assault.
Yeah.
June 2nd, 2023, a couple of weeks after she showed up at the police station, Susan is getting in it with everybody again. What do we see?
We see, it looks like cell phone footage from Susan's phone. You see some kids just outside playing. You hear the kids talking about Susan throwing roller skates and having a tablet. I think it's one of the kids' tablets.
And
You
this is
can
the night
hear.
of the shooting. So
Mhm.
she was taking video. She was taking them of the kids playing in the yard next door. She took a picture of the roller skates and grass. So it wasn't like on her porch or anything if it was in her yard. It looked like it was out in the middle of the field, maybe close to the no trespassing sign, but
It kinda looks
and
like some of those no trespassing signs have moved out a little bit further too, because we had that interview with the apartment owner where he was talking about the property line was very small. Like, it seems like maybe a foot or 2 out from the walkway up to her porch.
it does. And then you see a child or children walking by the signs like they're on their way home. And you see another kid in his front yard. She's shooting from across the street, riding around on a scooter. So this is all the night of the shooting. And what the one kid said, this was after the fact where the police are interviewing, asking what happened after the incident, that he saw roller skates flying at Izzy. And Izzy said that she had his tablet. And then he saw her swinging an umbrella at the kid.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. 1 sec.
And this child that's being interviewed also says that he heard one of the sons say, Izzy, go get mom. So Israel say that. Now, some people might say, well, is that hearsay for him to say Israel said, go get mom? The answer would be no. Hearsay is a statement made for the truth of the matter asserted. They're not using the statement, go get mom, to prove that Izzy went to get his mom. The fact that his mom shows up dead in the neighbor's yard across the street is proof of that. So it's not a statement being made to prove that. It's a statement to show that out loud in front of Susan, the kids acknowledged they were going to get their mother. So it's to show her knowledge at the time of the shooting. So that, again, wouldn't be hearsay. We get Susan's first 911 call where she tells the police that the kids are trespassing, they're being obnoxious, and they said they're going to beat me up, and I'm scared. An officer said, are there weapons? She said no. And she tells them that the kids are saying shady stuff, like she took their iPad, and that's not true. And she knows the mom's going to go out there and intervene. And the officer said, okay, go inside, lock the doors. We're on the way. If anything changes, let us know. Do you want an officer to call you? Yes. So when she makes this call and she says, yes, I want an officer to call, don't you think she'd hold on to her phone for that call?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this call too, she says that like she threw the kids' skates that were like in the yard.
Said she tossed it at him out of her yard.
Said, I'm sick of these kids. The cop told her to avoid the people and keep locked. And the cops asked if they wanted, the contact when they were there. And she said yes.
They also said call back if anything changes, which we hear the neighbors saying that Izzy's mom got mad, walked over to the lady's house, was banging on the glass door, and then she was banging on the regular door and saying, let me in. And the knocking was louder and louder. And then they heard a shot. And you see Izzy running to the neighbor's porch. The neighbor had finished smoking a cigarette. If you look in the background, you can actually see a flashlight, like somebody's in the yard where the kids play. And then you see somebody kind of walk over toward the patio and back. Because I believe this is the neighbor that's across the street from Susan. And it's her door cam. But it said they heard 2 knocks and then a bang. And then call 911, Karen shot my mom.
Susan
and they said she was
calls
screaming
911
at
back.
the kids outside, and then they heard the gunshot.
Susan calls 911 back, says, I saw it shot through the door. I didn't know what to do. Kind of what I noticed too is she goes from hysterical, hyperventilating, talking about the shooting to being rather calm when talking about, these kids have been pestering me. And
Yes, I noticed that too. She's hyperventilating, saying she's in fear for her life, and that she had
then
come
not
after
30
her
seconds
several
later-
times in the past because she told the kids to take their crap away.
And not 30 seconds later, she's like pretty calmly describing like the kids just being a nuisance, always being in her lawn and keeping their toys around, which again, it's not her yard. It's like this empty lot that's next to her.
Not her yard. You hear the police officers saying, wake up, and you see the kids waving the other officers coming in down. You hear them say she has a pulse. And then you see CPR starting. And at that point, they start blurring out the scene. It does look like they took off her shirt, of course, to administer CPR. They said that she was shot in the arm, kind of near the chest. And you see the officers sweep the house. They put Susan into the police car. And Izzy is like, hey, bitch, why did you shoot her? And she just kind of dryly says, because she was threatening me. Now, one thing you may notice, which I'm going to go ahead and dive a little bit into the stuff I've heard. I've heard this full tape. The glass door is right beside the door, the regular door that she shot through, that white door. And you don't see any blood. You don't see any blood on the patio. Also, AJ is lying out near the no trespassing sign. She's not laying directly outside of the door. When you hear the full 911 tape, the officers keep repeating to each other and double checking that there's no exit wound. They're looking for an exit wound. They don't see an exit wound. Also, one of them comments that there's not a lot of blood. Like, they took off the shirt to try to find the entrance wound, but apparently it hasn't caused a lot of blood. It's probably internal bleeding. Yeah. So that is, you don't even see a lot of it when they move AJ to the gurney, but that's kind of where everything went down. And Izzy talks to the police. It's heartbreaking. They want to make that, is my mom okay? Is she moving? They said, yeah, she's still moving. And you said they were playing.
Take her to get better care.
And she went to get the tablet and threw the roller skates at me. And my mom went over there, banged on the door, and got shot.
Yeah, says that soon. So the next part of this is, and you gave me the most heartbreaking part to describe too, is
not
the father
enough today. Love is blind.
I know. The cops call up Izzy's father, or the kid's father, and ask him to come down here. The kids need, a parental figure right now.
We need an adult.
He gets there. Yeah, he gets there. The cops pull him aside and give him the absolutely devastating news that she's
about to collapse.
He gets on the phone and calls AJ's mother, who's just, the wailing and the crying, like you feel in your soul for these people. It's absolutely heartbreaking. He goes up to the children and tells them, we all loved mom. We love her so much, but she's not coming home. I loved
her. Yeah. She's not coming home. And the kids break down. I hate how they kept telling the kids, everybody. I know what they were trying to do, but telling them it would be okay. I don't know if that's what they needed to hear in that moment.
Yeah, just absolutely devastating for those little kids. And I've lost my mom, and for them to lose their mom just so young.
And for such a ridiculous reason. For no reason. For absolutely no reason.
She was behind, and they get into this later with the court case, but Susan was behind a locked door.
They do. Now, the friends are, I'm sorry, man. They give Izzy a bro hug. The neighbors' reactions.
You can tell the real neighbors really love AJ too.
They do. And they're all in disbelief that this has, not in disbelief, but shocked that she actually has passed and succumbed to her injuries. And
it's really tragically... It's really tragically beautiful how you just see this community come for each other and come to support each other and for those children.
Susan was the only one who didn't want to be a part of this community.
And you just see the love, and that's what I took from it the most is it was a swarm of everybody coming to do whatever they could for this family who had suffered even the most tragic, unimaginable loss.
The neighborhood kids just so empathetic, and that hard watch. That's a hard watch. The interview on July 3rd, I've actually watched this full interview, and we'll talk about this just a little bit, but the officers say that they are getting her side of the statements, and she starts with that the kids are running around, she has a headache, she goes to lay down, she hears the noise, she comes back out and tells them they're trespassing and they need to go home. And then they said, well, we're going to go tell our mom. And she's like, go ahead, get your mom.
Go tell your mom. I don't care.
I don't care. Now, if somebody made you so afraid you feared for your life, would you tell the kids to go tell their mom to come over? Or would you maybe try to de-escalate the situation?
There's conflicting reports kind of with the witnesses. Some of the witnesses say that she was banging on the glass or she was banging on the door. Some people say that there were 2 knocks and then a loud bang.
So the early hours of July 3rd, the police are interviewing Susan and getting her statement. She first talks about how annoying the kids are and how they said they were going to go tell her mom. Susan said, go ahead.
Go get your mom. I don't care.
If she was deathly afraid of AJ, would she have just been like, go get your mom? I don't care.
Yeah, this is a woman that she's previously claimed has thrown things at her and threatened to beat her up, and threatened to throw her in a nursing home.
Well, she even says here that she starts banging and the banging gets louder. And this woman has attacked her before with the paper sign. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. And she was afraid for her life. So she grabbed the gun and shot through the door. Now, there are a few interesting things I think stick out in this interview. Is there anything that you want to say first? Because we may have found stuff.
So she talks about the banging on her door, and she goes to the bathroom, or she was in the bathroom, and there's banging on the door, and then she says, you need to leave. And then she talks about the banging being so loud that it's shaking her picture, shaking her mirror, and she says, you really need to leave. Like, is this through the door? Like,
well, she did shoot through the door.
Mhm.
And she said she was afraid that AJ was going to kill her.
Said that she didn't know what to do. The cops asked her how long the banging was. She said it could have been minutes, it could have been seconds. She mentioned going, to the bathroom during that part or trying to find her phone.
And the officer said, well, you just had called 911. Didn't you have your phone?
Mm-hmm.
And she said she didn't know where it was, which to me,
there's a lot of inconsistencies even in this very first interview.
You made a call. You don't know where your phone is, but you know where your gun is. Your phone, when police officer was on the way, which she acknowledges, she knew officers were on the way. So, and they were going to call her. So why not have your phone on you for when they call? But you can find a gun. Then she starts saying that she almost killed herself this morning because the kids left their roller skates. This isn't their garbage yard. She almost tripped on it on the way out to the doctor. So that night she decides to throw the roller skates at them, not put it back in their yard that morning.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's still very just inconsistent throughout even this very first interview.
And she doesn't bring up the roller skates and she doesn't bring up the umbrella until the officers say, well, everybody saw you swinging an umbrella at the kids. Oh, I thought it was raining. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this woman really thought it was raining?
No. And they questioned her about it again. She's like, well, I might have swung it, just.
Yeah, because at first she's like, oh, I didn't do anything. Well, why did they see you swinging it? I don't know. I might have done it, but I didn't hit them. I would never hit them. And this is where the officers say it's serious because someone has died. This woman does not look remorseful. She looks like she's got a migraine and she's putting her head in her hands.
If that were me, like, I am a pacifist to the core, but if something, like that happened, I would need time to process that. Like, I would stop everything right there. And it just didn't seem to faze her at all when the cops tell her somebody has died and this is very serious.
She's just like, oh no. And then she recovers. The officers go outside to talk to the state's office, the prosecutors. She just sits there and takes a sip of water.
Mm-hmm. I had that in my notes too, just a water sip.
Just wait for them to come back. Now, this surprised me. The officers say that the state's attorney has decided to continue to investigate, that they're going to let her go home and get her things, but they don't think it's safe for her. So they will escort her home. I was shocked that they didn't make an arrest.
Oh, yeah. I was yelling at my TV, like, they're letting her go.
I also felt like the officers were suggesting answers to her. For example, they say when we're questioned about us shooting, like this is what happens. When we're in the field and we're questioned about us shooting, we have to explain what happened to show if there is a reason that we did this, like why we thought there was deadly force, which is the answer. If she can show why she reasonably thought there was deadly force, then that is her self-defense claim. But then they also kind of twisted it around and they say, if you shoot through a closed door, how do you know that you're stopping deadly force? How do you know you're not shooting at a child at that point? So I thought that was interesting. It's like they were suggesting it, but then they were also questioning her. It was almost like good cop, bad cop. I just don't like that they were suggesting the defense to her. And that's what shocked me about the lack of arrest. Self-defense, stand your ground. At least in my state, that is an affirmative defense. So you raise that to say, yes, I'm the one that shot. Yes, I'm the one that killed. But this is why it is justifiable, because I was in fear for my life. So you would charge her and let her raise the self-defense claim. And it may be different, like state to state, but I was surprised they didn't charge her. And then we see the public's reaction.
Yeah, the public's understandably very upset. There's been a lot of these cases in Florida too. And
well, they want to know why there hasn't been an arrest. I think there's one point where the neighbors say, if it was us, if it was someone that looked like us, there would be an arrest. You wouldn't be driving them home to get their things. If this was a Black person, there would be an arrest.
Absolutely.
And that really hits.
Susan, the cops take her, escort her to her home to pick up some personal items. It looks like things might have been vandalized. I wasn't too sure about that. I think, was it the screen door or like the sliding door?
June 5th, we see the cops show up at her house, and I think they're complaining about maybe glass being broken. Susan's daughter and I guess grandson is there.
I think her mom was there too. It looked like there was an older lady with her as well. She said something about them getting to her dishes or something.
But the neighbor across the street, she put the sign down, neighbor. I love her energy. This would definitely be me. She is yelling at Susan in the street. The officer is going over to calm her down. She's like, she's going to end up in jail. It doesn't even matter anyway. And explains everyone's upset because she murdered someone. And then the officer says, just make my life easier. And she goes off, what do you mean make your life easier?
Make your life easier.
Are you kidding me? And he goes, well, y'all don't need to be arguing out in the street. And it's so funny. She's talking so much.
And she's like, she's not coming out to the streets.
She's not coming out to the street. She shot that lady through a closed door.
She's disgusting. And just none of that sounded threatening to her. It was more of an outrage. Why is this person still walking free after shooting my friend?
But he also wanted Susan to hear it. That this is what we're thinking of you. And I think the officer that was there is the same one that was telling the kids months ago that he used to fuck with old people in his neighborhood too. Probably did worse stuff. June 6th in the evening, we see the second police interview. The officers bring Susan back in and ask her, is there any time that someone has ever tried to break into your house? Has this ever happened before where someone tried to break in and hurt you? And she says no. It's the first question they ask. Never happened before.
They even asked her about, former abuse or essay that she might have faced. And she said, no, nothing like this has ever happened before.
And then they ask if there's any reasons that someone might have a video of her saying the N-word. And she says, I might have let it slip. The officers have a very calm reaction, but definitely I have the same question. How does this slip?
It doesn't slip. Like,
under what circumstances would this slip? Bullshit answer. She says that she grew up hearing that this meant someone was unlawful or unruly.
Dirty, unpleasant.
Woman, you live in the 2020s. Learn. Educate yourself. She knows better.
Yeah. But you're not born racist. Racism is taught. And she's saying this oh, well, I was taught that this word means unpleasant and rude.
But
which I had some racist
live in
people.
a society where you should know better. I mean, on all accounts, this woman probably is living under a rock. She kind of seems like a troll living under a bridge, to be honest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But she continues with this. I was afraid for my life. I'm pounding on the door, or she's pounding on the door. I thought she was going to break the door down. It was an extended period of time. So then the officers start asking her about the time frame. Every call is logged onto 911. And between the time you got off the first call and the time that you got onto the second call, time you got off the first call from knowing the cops are coming and telling them, kids' noise complaints, to the time that you call back and tell you've shot her, how much time has elapsed? Susan says maybe 10 minutes. The officers say, well, that's not what the records show. It shows about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Now,
a lot of this doesn't make sense with her statement, too, because, she was in the bathroom, she was in the kitchen looking for her phone, the gun that was used, what came from her bedroom or ended up in her bedroom somehow. It's a very inconsistent, narrative all around.
2 minutes. That's a short amount of time for everything to happen. Right. Why does she go and wash her hands? So she hears banging on the door. The banging stops for a second. She goes to wash her hands, and then the banging gets louder, and she can't find her phone, so she gets a gun? Why did she wash her hands?
That part made no sense to me.
She rambles off and doesn't answer that. She's like, because I thought she was going to kill me. I wonder if she washed her hands afterwards so that there wouldn't be gunpowder,
gun residue or anything off of her. Yeah. But then, she called and said that she shot her too. So like it said, a lot of it is just coming from a place of no sense. They asked Susan if she's ever heard of Stand Your Ground. She says yes. They ask her if they checked her devices, her phone, her computer, if they would see any recent searches for Stand Your Ground laws. And she says no. She might have looked at it, I think she said years ago with another case that happened.
Something happened in the news and she looked it up. But she's saying, I didn't research this to get away with it. Now, I think the timing is a very strong argument. So as an attorney, there are effective ways to make a point. And what I want to do is show the channel surfers exactly what kind of time frame we're talking about. Now, I know from looking at things after this documentary that the exact amount of time between when Susan got off the first phone call complaining about the kids to when she made the second phone call saying that she had shot through the door was 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Nori and I have outlined the events of that night, and what we're going to do is play a song for 2 minutes and 33 seconds as we describe what happened, according to Susan, between the time she got off the first call and the time she made the second call. And we'll hear the music playing so you guys can get a feeling just for 2 minutes and 33 seconds and everything that's happening in there. Starting now. Oh, this damn kids always hollering. I can't believe I had to call 911 again. There is no peace in this neighborhood. They leave their damn toys all over the place. And who is it? What do you want?
It's AJ. We need to talk about my boys. You've got their tablet.
I don't have their tablet. Are you kidding me? You really need to leave. I'm not coming to my door. If you got a problem with me, go ahead and call the cops. Go wash my hands. I don't know what's going on out there, and this is just craziness. I'm so sick of dealing with this. Jeez.
Susan, just talk to me.
A, B, C, D, E, F. Just wash my hands. H, I. Gotta make sure I get all the germs off. L, M, N, O,
Susan,
P,
just talk to me.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. All right. Dry off my hands, go deal with this bitch. My whole walls are shaking. What is that? She's on my door now.
Come out here, Susan.
Let me go find my phone in the kitchen. Where's that damn phone? I need to call the cops back. They're not here yet. I don't know if they're ever going to come. I'm scared. The walls are shaking.
Susan!
I guess that's a reasonable time to look for my phone. Let me go find my guns. Gotta go over to my bedroom and find my damn guns. She's about to kill me. I'm scared. Jeez. Ugh. All right.
Come out here,
I got
Susan.
these 2 guns. Which gun am I going to use? All right. Let's use this one. Make sure it's loaded. Gun's loaded. All right. Let me go get myself steadied and go to the door. And so that was 2 minutes and 33 seconds. And this is assuming that AJ got to the door pretty quickly after.
Yeah, because you got to give it time.
Susan ended the first call with the police. Because remember, AJ was not at the door when she got off the phone. And we're telling this story according to AJ. So, like, not AJ, according to Susan. So, assuming what Susan said is true, and what we definitely know is this time frame because of the calls, this is everything that would have to happen, except it's not. This is also very quick thinking. So, again, assuming that AJ shows up very quickly after, assuming that Susan's almost just appearing from room to room, I don't know that I really gave her enough time to walk from room to room. The things that we said are things that Susan alleged was said. So assuming that there's just like it's said once, it's understood. Assuming that the amount of time we gave her in the kitchen to search for her phone was a reasonable amount of time before going to get a gun. Assuming that she was able to quickly find the gun and make sure it's loaded and all of that. So again, I think what I went through was pretty fast, and we haven't even got to where she shoots AJ. We're just about to get there. And then after she shoots AJ, she does go back and find her gun and call the police. So this has to be enough time, in addition to what we just showed you.
And calls the police.
Right. That's a lot of time. Her story, even in like the quickest possible sense, does not seem reasonable.
No, it doesn't.
We don't even know at what point did she put the guns back. The police agreed. There's no way to justify this in 2 minutes. And the officer says, I'm going to leave this pad for you. If you want to write something to the kids, you can. And she takes a sip of water and writes a letter to the kids, which is basically like, sorry, I killed your mom. I was afraid for my life. I thought I was going to die.
It's her fault. She threatened me, basically.
Now, I think the reason that the police did this was because this is part of the interrogation. Basically, whatever she's writing to the kids is a confession.
That's what I thought, too.
That was like a police strategy that was being used here.
Or to see if she was going to show any remorse.
Now, I thought this part was so interesting. They go to arrest her. She's straight up like, nope, you're not going to arrest me? No, I can't. I can't. I'm not going with you. I can't. I'm about to have a heart attack.
You got to do this the hard way. Just kill me.
And the officers are like, no, we're not going to kill you. There's medics at the jail. I've never seen anybody refuse to go to jail like that. Like, no, I can't do it. So, what are you just going to sit here all night? After I watched this, I saw this short on Facebook where this woman is refusing to leave an all-you-can-eat restaurant. I also think this was in Florida. And she's like, I can't. I'm eating my shrimp. She even kind of looked like Susan. It reminded me so much of that. We see the funerals. Al Sharpton gives a pretty powerful speech. I cried during this.
Yes, I did too.
He said, Mama, it's what mothers do. She died so
she
that
chose to stand up for you, that you're not to be degraded.
And live your life the way that, for her. And he says that the night that this happened, he fell asleep in his aunt's car and he had a dream of his mom and she was an angel. I just lost it. Stand your ground. States have that rule, which what a stand your ground rule is that you don't have to retreat. So if you're in your home or if you're in a residence and somebody tries to come into the house, either threatening to hurt you in a deadly way, or commit a felony therein, and the felony can't be burglary, but to commit a felony therein, then you don't have to retreat. You don't have to run and jump out of a window to avoid them. You can stay in that residence and defend yourself. So right before we get into the things that I found, let me just go over the couple of things that they tell us at the end of this case with the 6-minute clips of trial. Some of it's repeat, but what isn't repeated is that witnesses are testifying they never saw AJ reach for the handle of the door. They never heard her scream, "I'm going to kill you." A police officer testifies that she examined the door, and besides the bullet hole, there was no visible signs of any other damage to the door. For example, if AJ was sitting there banging on it, there was no sign that it was dented or anything like that. There were also 2 firearms in the trash in her bedroom. This is the first time we hear about 2 being there instead of 1, and that they were in the trash. And during the closing, I think there were powerful things on both sides. For the prosecution, they posed to the jury, was it reasonable to shoot through a closed, locked, and deadbolted metal door? And for the state, they gave this self-defense chart, which in any other case but this, I think would be persuasive. I'm usually very defense-minded. This entire case, though, I was thinking from the side of the prosecution. Now, that's the documentary. Let me tell you a few more things that I found out. So I have watched the sentencing. I've watched the closing arguments. I've watched the full interview. Couple of things that I want to point out from that. There were 2 guns in the trash. We know this. One of them was a higher caliber than the other. The coroner determined that the higher caliber gun was the one that was used to kill AJ. And one of the things that the defense would prove in order to show that this was justifiable is that it was either an accident or she accidentally shot the gun, or that she was in reasonable fear that she was going to have imminent bodily harm. Not the person might come through, but the person actually was coming through the door. So the fact that she chose the higher caliber gun, they said she knew what she was doing. She had the mental capacity to understand she was choosing the more powerful gun. Now, given that, if you were to guess which gun would be on top of the trash can, the higher caliber gun or the lower caliber, she used the higher caliber in the shooting. And she said she also told police that she kept her guns in the trash can. And they said, well, I guess no one would find them there or think to look there. Yeah, that was during the interview. So which gun do you think would be on top? Exactly. However, the higher caliber gun, the murder weapon, was underneath the smaller caliber gun. So I thought that's the question. But she definitely seemed to know what she was doing. They did charge manslaughter. Now, with murder, they would have to prove intent, which intent, it can happen in the blink of an eye. So I still think that the option to choose manslaughter was interesting. And I think that has to do with some of the factors that they show during sentencing for mitigating. We'll get into that. But for manslaughter, they did not have to find intent to kill. Negligence would have been enough, which means that she had a reckless disregard for the life of others. So another thing that I found out, the metal door was cracked. And this is what she was telling police, and that the landlord had, she says, jerry-rigged the door. He put some screws in to fix it, but that AJ had come over before and cracked the door frame. And 2 months before this happened, he also put a deadbolt in because she said she had a chair that she would keep up under the door handle. So he put the deadbolt in to help make that more secure. The landlord admitted that he made those repairs, but he said that the only thing left to do was some cosmetic things, that he had put wood putty in there, and this was a metal door, but the only thing left was cosmetic. Susan also is saying that, again, AJ broke the door, but she's like, she broke that metal door plate on the front. The police officer said, though, in the video, there were no signs of anything wrong with the door. I'm guessing that maybe she, if anything, dented the metal plate. But Susan also said she freaked out because she didn't have the chair under the door that night. So she had a deadbolt, though. So that got rid of the need for the chair under the door. Anyway, the door doesn't look cracked. It's still a metal door. And the landlord said, no, it was just cosmetic left. So that was some of the excuses she was throwing out there. And then some of the testimony that came in. I think it's hard to say because one of the things they keep questioning and asking her is what she intended when she shot. Did she intend to hurt the other person or to scare them off? So you have to intend to kill for murder. And we'll get into that charge. Again, there were some mitigating factors that are brought up. Now, while she's in this interview, she also tells the investigators that she was afraid of AJ because of the sign incident, which happened 2 months before. That's when she put the deadbolt in. And what we see in the closing arguments is the prosecutor, he was very effective. He said, look, she had plenty of chances to hurt you, to cause great bodily harm to you, and she didn't take it. There was no time that you ever had an altercation with her where she hurt you. And of course, Susan wants to sit there and say, oh, the sign. Well, as far as the sign, we see her walking around after the police are called. She doesn't immediately sit there and say, oh, I was attacked with the sign. She complains about the kids first. We know that Susan would definitely talk about the sign first if she was injured. Additionally, it doesn't seem like Susan exactly tried to avoid AJ after this. The prosecutor says in closing, one thing that is going to rightfully incite a Black person would be calling their kids a racial slur. Rightfully, that would incite somebody. And Susan says, while she didn't do it, of course, she's perfect neighbor, she never would do that. She said she apologized just to diffuse the situation, which I'm sorry, bullshit. Do you see Susan doing anything to diffuse the situation?
No, not at all. I feel like there are several turns that she could have made, like several things she could have done to make amends with her neighbors if she was truly sorry. I feel like even just passing candy out on Halloween probably would have, done a lot for her community, but Susan didn't want to be a part of this community.
Susan escalates. And in this moment, the point is, AJ, when Susan is apologizing, according to Susan's story for this, that means AJ would have known that she's admitting to call her kids a racial slur. If she was going to get violent at any time, wouldn't it be this time where there's not a metal tour between the two of you? And did AJ react with violence? No, she walked away. In the past, the same thing would happen. She'd go, she'd knock on her door. She would tell her to come outside because the kids, we need to talk about the kids. Did she ever hurt her in the past? No. And that's
Never.
Another thing that the state said is, according to Susan, AJ was saying, come outside. AJ was not trying to get into the house. She was telling her to come outside. So that just shows there wasn't a threat that AJ was trying to get into the house.
Yes, and we see Susan, who is time and time again weaponize the police against her neighbors. When her neighbors when her neighbors probably had a right at times to call the cops on Susan. They never did. Even that same night, of the gunshot too, she threw roller skates. Those were pretty chunky, roller skates from what we saw during the trial. That could have had serious harm to a child if thrown directly at them or if it hit them, God forbid.
Now, I get more of an idea, too, of the timeline from what I watched. So at 8:49, the photos that Susan had on her phone she took of the kids that night? At 8:49, there is a photo, which we see, or a video, of the boys walking by the no trespassing sign. And when Izzy walks by, he waves at Susan. This is 8:49 p.m. The first phone call to police complaining about the kids is made 5 minutes later at 8:54. So my guess is he walked by, he waved, she goes and throws the skates, starts swinging the umbrella, and then walks inside within 5 minutes to call the police. And this is after she tells the kids, go ahead, let your mom come over. If you are afraid for your life of this woman, if you really think she's going to kill you because she threw a paper sign at you, Are you going to tell them, yeah, just let your mom come over?
Mhm.
You're not going to
No, you're
de-escalate
not.
it, Susan. That phone call lasts for 4 minutes and 55 seconds, and she hangs up at 8:59. So that is the first phone call where she is complaining about the kids. Then at 9:01:37, 2 minutes and 33 seconds later, we have the second call, which is after the shooting took place. That's what happened. At 8:54, she sees Izzy walking by and waving as he walks home with right past the no trespassing sign, and she loses her shit. Now, I thought this was interesting. The state did not offer her a plea deal. They said, you can come to us with a reasonable offer, and she didn't come to them either. She decided to take it to trial.
It's interesting.
Now, in the sentencing phase, the defendant, this is after she's been found guilty, the defendant gets to make a statement, and then the prosecution and state would make their arguments. Now, the minimum time for this manslaughter with a firearm charge was 11 and a half years. The maximum time was 30. The defense tried to argue that there were mitigating circumstances which should persuade the judge to go below the sentencing guideline of 11 years, and they asked for just probation, that she'd not serve time. Let me tell you about the mitigating factors. Because of sexual abuse, they did find that Susan had PTSD, and she had no prior record. People testified about good things she did for the community, like she was a big sister and big brother, big sisters. It wasn't much. And the judge found that she did have PTSD, but the state argued this was not a reason for her actions. The PTSD had shown up twice, once in her 20s, which was 40 years before this incident, and once 5 years before this incident. And in both cases, there's no record of any treatment sought or any attempt to better herself, which the defense is saying if she gets treated for her PTSD, it's treatable. The state saying she's had 40 years. Most of these symptoms were in her 20s. She hasn't gotten help yet. So why does she get a second chance now?
It ended with, why did she get a second chance now? No.
First-time offenders, also, courts do look at that as a mitigating factor. Now, during the portion where Susan gets to speak, it's gross. First of all, she sits there and talks about all of these medical issues she has, which really, I don't know if she's trying to say that she was weak and that's why she was reasonably afraid, but she's just repeating things that came up in trial and making excuses on why she feared for her life. Just the same bullshit. She also goes into this tirade about basically a long I have Black friends. She says, I was married to a man who was Middle Eastern, so he had brown skin. So obviously I'm not racist. And I was a singer, not a doctor, a singer. And I worked with this person and they were Black. And obviously I can get along with Black people. So that was really icky. And then she apologizes to the family. After she says she was really afraid for her life, she apologizes and says, I wish I could take it back. I wish it was me instead of her. Which, if you really felt justified, if you really felt this person was going to kill you, are you going to be apologizing to their family for killing them? It was hypocritical. And the judge says that there were multiple times where Susan and AJ were together. During these times, there was only one time that it got physical. And the one time that it got physical was AJ tossing a paper sign at Susan. Literally says she tossed a paper sign at you to show how ridiculous it is and how that wouldn't be enough for a reasonable person to fear for their life, which I thought was hilarious when he sat there and said, she tossed a paper sign at you. So he gives her 25 years. In Florida, they have to serve 85% of that, which ends up being about 20 years before she's eligible for parole. And she got a little over 530 days time served, so about a year and a half time served. So we're looking at like 19 years down the road. Basically, she won't be eligible for parole until she's like 79 or 80. All right. So that's what I have on it. What are your thoughts? Noram, tell us what you think.
Yeah. this is so hard to fathom and so sad for just about everybody involved. My
She
heart
took
is
those
with
kids'
her poor little
childhood away.
kids.
She took their mom away.
I know.
And I hope they
Every
don't blame
moment,
themselves because this is not them. This is that crazy woman across the street.
I know the children had, thoughts of guilt in the beginning, and that's going to take a lot of, trauma, a lot of unpacking, but those babies didn't do anything wrong. They really didn't.
Absolutely not. Those beautiful,
They're
beautiful
kids just being
children.
kids.
Do you have any questions from like a legal perspective?
Not very much.
Did we cover it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, channel servers, if you have any thoughts or questions about, the legality of any of this, just put it in the comments. I'm not giving legal advice, but as a legal analyst in this case, I will kind of talk about the situation. Again, it's not legal advice. Well, thank you for tuning in to Perfect Neighbor. And thank you, Nori, for showing up
Thank you for having
doing
me.
this with me. Despite everybody knows I've been dealing with technical difficulties. Did not mean for any of them to rub off on you if they did. And we hope to have you back really soon. I told Nori anytime she wants to. Your favorite fan. You love 90 Day and all of this.
I watch it all. Yep.
Well, thanks for listening. I know you have to go watch the Love is Blind reunion. So I'm not going to spoil that for you.
It's not the reunion yet, though. It's just the day before the weddings, right? The hen party and the...
No, the day of the weddings.
Yeah.
The weddings.
Okay.
So if channel surfers, I'm dropping that at the same time I'm dropping this. But thank you for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with your friends. We love you and we'll see you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye. Let's ride.